Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome, Stunthangar fans. I was almost late. I was engrossed in an episode of King of the Hill while I was setting up the Stunthangar video session, and it was watching Hank and his cronies taking the kids out on a scouting trip to uh, the Order of the Straight Arrow, and they were snipe hunting, and Bobby accidentally misidentified a rare Texas whooping crane for a snipe and beat it beat it to death and put it in a bag and hid it. And then the game wardens came and I had to turn it off, but just in the nick of time to start the show. So welcome everybody. The links are posted in the usual places. That would be in the At the Bench thread on the Stunthanger Control Line forums, as is always the case. And if you go to the Stunthanger YouTube channel, then you will see the video streaming live, at which time you can type in the chat box. And I see that Bob Bishop and Jeff Rowley have already typed out there. Happy Memorial Day back at you, Jeff. I didn't get down to the parade today. We usually have a pretty good parade downtown. Today, I wasn't able to get there. Usually it's always on a Monday, and Mondays are not a day when I can travel. But I'd like to thank everybody who went to their local parade and saluted the vets and watched the flyovers and whatever other kind of attractions are going on. Salute our veterans from foreign wars all over the world. So my dad was one. I'm one of a generation that grew up in the era of parents who had served in World Wars One and Two and Korea, back when airplanes were fascinating machines and all kids played with airplanes instead of like today where airplanes are just ordinary. I'm going to back up so I get my whole head in the picture. Yeah, that's part of the thing, you know. It was easy to get people interested in aeromodeling back then when I was a kid, back in the 50s and 60s, because planes were fascinating, new technology, and now they're just ordinary. So, got to work a little harder to get kids interested in it. And, uh, but anyway, so that brings us here. That's what we're here for, is to spread the word and hopefully get people interested, keep people interested in aeromodeling, bring our community together. And so hope that's what we're doing. We got 5 people watching on the YouTube now. And I'd like to remind you that the YouTube super chat button is that gray block $sign at the bottom of the YouTube chat box, where you can send us a donation, which goes to Sparky's server fees and video equipment and all of the things that he uses to broadcast the Nats and Brodak and Triple Tree and all of these events to us, and to keep the forum server paid up and online. And my hobby budget keeps my hobby budget afloat too, so that's always good. So we appreciate it when you'll click that $sign. And some of you can, I know, appreciate that. Some of you can't. Certainly understand that. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. As long as you come here and hang out with us and tell us funny stories or show and tell. Show and tell is always good. My favorite part of the introduction to aero modeling. Everybody can see what methods we use to get to the same end result, and there's a lot of different ways to do things, and we try to compare notes and show you what we got. Anyway, I hope some people will come in and hang out with us. We will be on until as usual, midnight is my minimum cutoff time, and if the conversations are enthralling, we'll stay here until the wee hours of the morning. And so let's see, we got Jack, Jeff, and Bob. Jack Snavely, Jeff Rowley, and Bob Bishop. Thank y'all for coming, and hopefully we'll get some live visitors in pretty soon, because I don't really have a whole lot prepared to talk about tonight. This was a pretty good weekend. I had hoped to get out in the shop. I did a little bit, um, but my son had a party on Saturday night, and so I ended up going over to his house and hanging out until about 2 o'clock in the morning, and had a good time over there. Hey, Gerald Wimmer, thank you for your super chat donation. We always always appreciate that, and hopefully when you get the boys home from school and settled in, maybe you can come in and join us live. And well, let's see, 7 watching now. The crowd is slowly growing. And Gerald says, hi, Rusty, and all those on Stunthangar. Hello to everybody on Stunthangar. See, what can we talk about tonight? Told you last week about finally getting that glass on my table, and I had to level it with some aluminum angle irons, and that got the gaps filled in where the glass was following the curve of the table. And now those angle irons will straighten that out. And I've checked it with my metal machinist ruler, say 1 meter stick, and I can't slip a piece of paper under that meter stick the whole length of it, and I move it around so it appears to be flat all the way along. Hey, Gerald. Oh, so you just came right in. That reminds me, I need to turn on my anti-pirate controls. Let's make sure I do that. How's everything down in New Zealand? Oh, excuse me. I've got my. Now I can hear you. If you answered me, I could not hear you, but now I can. Okay.
Oh, Rusty, down here it's a little bit cold now. It's windy outside right now. If I throw the camera out the window, you can probably see the leaves are falling, and it's getting cold and windy and a bit rainy right now. Autumn leaves now.
Yeah, it's in the, of course, in the heat of the summer here. We've been having, I think we've had 100-degree Fahrenheit temperatures every day for the past week or so now, and yeah, we gotta carry those emergency supplies in our flight kits so we can cool off. I always tell people about that green drugstore alcohol. It's the mint smelling alcohol, and if you start to get if your core temperature starts getting too hot, then you can pour a few glugs of that green alcohol in your cooler, ice water, and wring a rag in it, and then squeeze it over your neck, and it'll make you scream out loud, but it will bring your core temperature down and save you from heat stroke in a big hurry. So y'all keep that in mind. That's a good way if you see somebody that looks like they're not quite right, if the heat's getting to them, that's a good rescue right there. And of course, take all other appropriate actions to avoid heat stroke. But that's the fastest emergency fix that I've ever come across for avoiding heat stroke and protecting somebody.
Yeah, I suppose it's good to have your hat and suntan lotion and somewhere you can shade yourself. Where we fly at Bruce McLaren Park, we're able to park under the trees, and during the heat of summer when we got nice and warm, it was really nice just to have somewhere cool to retreat to, somewhere you could cool down. And when you're out on the field, you're only out there for your 8 minutes or so, and then you can come back and keep cool. But another thing I've seen is people have a van and it's got a lift up tailgate, and then they've got the extendable area there, and if you can use that as a nice bit of shade if you've got a.
Yeah, I like our Congaree flying field. Y'all have heard me mention it before, and the way the parking area and the runway line up, we can back up right to the edge of where our control line pits are and open the lift gate, and it makes a great shaded area just to spread out and work on your plane right in the back of your car, or sit down, and it's got a big enough shadow to park a couple of chairs under. So yeah, that comes in handy too.
Yeah.
One of the advantages that I never knew I was getting when I ended up biting the bullet and buying an SUV, which I never ever wanted. I detested SUVs because they blocked my view at intersections, and I always considered them too big to be a practical vehicle. But when I needed it to put airplanes in, then all of a sudden I've flipped on that. I'm pro SUV now. So at least the mid-sized SUVs. I've got a Santa Fe, and that's about right. You can haul a 40, 50 size airplane in that pretty easily. Stack about 3 or 4 of them up, and
Yeah, it's a very big consideration now. If you've got one-piece models, that the model will fit in your vehicle. Like I've talked about before, I've got 2 Suburbans, but they've both got the wind-down tailgate, and it's not very practical. You don't have the lift-up tailgate like our station wagons. We've got a Commodore station wagons, and they have a nice lift-up tailgate that gives you that shade, and you can sit
yeah.
on the back of it there, and it's nice and comfortable. But I can't fit my Magnum in it. I put my Magnum all together, wouldn't fit. It just wouldn't fit in
Couldn't
there.
get it in, really.
No, and at that point, the Magnum's still sitting on the side, waiting till I've got one of my Suburbans running. But I could put it in my Ute, but it's just not the Ute can't really take 4 people comfortably.
I actually was able to get my Magnum and my Mazda P5, which was a hatchback protege. It was a 5-door protege, little sports car, and I could get it in there, but I couldn't get anything else in the car with it, and it was a trick. It was a real trick, and then finally, yeah, when I got the SUV, when I got the Santa Fe, the Magnum would go in there pretty easy. But that was the biggest plane I've ever owned, and it was too big for me to fly. So I doubt if I'll ever be flying. I think it was 66-inch wingspan, something like that. It was a big boy. If I put the wingtip on the ground in front of me, the other wingtip, I think it came up to about here on me. So it was almost as tall as me.
Yeah, well, the Magnum would fit if I didn't have family with me. Then I could just fold down the back seat and I'd be fine. But
Yeah.
You've got an extra watcher tonight. You can see what it is.
What you got? Oh, is that a? Let me click on it and make it big. Here we go. Oh, the praying mantis.
Yeah.
Those are aliens from another planet. I'm pretty convinced that they're not natural to the Earth, indigenous to the Earth. Those bugs will turn your heads and follow your gaze. They're scary.
It's what it's doing right now. It's watching Stunthangar. I was picking apples before cleaning out one of our apple trees as we got to the end of the season, and it's coming with me. I might just pop it out the window. So I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. That's a green one. Most of ours around here are kind of a dull brown color. But yeah, those are creepy bugs. And the way they look at you and follow your gaze makes me truly believe they got an idea of what they're looking at. They're not just completely dumb insects like cockroaches.
I suppose they're a predator, so they're quite good at their job. The predators tend to be a bit brighter. They sort of bite other bugs' heads off with those big mandibles, those big jaws.
Yeah.
But, I didn't want to flatten it. I think I felt it on my hair earlier, and then your normal instinctive reaction, run your arm over it. Next thing, it's on my arm. So that's out the window now. But just now that the weather's turned, I thought I'll come inside and do a little bit of work on my Thunderbird again. I put the bell crank in, made up another little top plate to secure it from the top and bottom. And just a little bit more work on it, but slowly going together, and started doing the fuselage and the crutch for my motor. But nothing happens very quickly, especially when I've got other jobs that are, they're just starts of my crutch and fuselage. So
I got your email today. I kind of had to chuckle when you said you were embarrassed to send pictures of your planes in because they were so unattractive looking, but you might build something beautiful in the future to feature in our calendar.
mm.
Did you just, was I late getting that? It just popped up in my email today.
I just got the calendar recently, so
Okay.
I just sent it through. But
Yeah.
yeah, everything takes a long time to get from the States to New Zealand. So
Yeah.
the
Well, good.
calendar.
I'm glad it showed up. It was a pretty good little calendar. Speaking of which, our calendar producer, Gary Sinclair, just dropped in as I was saying that. So thank you, Gary, again.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, it was great kicksack for Stunthangar. Hopefully it can carry on a lot longer and we're not going to be kicked off by YouTube. But it's been a great way to share information, and the stuff that pops up on Stunthangar often ends up disseminated and shared out through other forums and groups. It gives me interesting topics to add when I do the club newsletter. That's another one of those junctures where you've got to think of something to add, but there's enough stuff on the internet now. Doing a newsletter is much easier than it used to be. It's sort of hard to imagine the pre-internet times of trying to dig information out of old magazines. I'd be flicking through old aeromodelers and flying models and model aviations, whatever I could find.
Oh, gosh, I don't know where my hobby wouldn't be nearly as far along right now as if it weren't for the internet. And when I got back into it, I learned more about aerodynamics and the structural importance of so many things about an airframe that I never knew what the hell I was doing. It's amazing that any of my stuff flew and some of it didn't back in the day. I didn't understand about all of the different balance points and so much you can learn these days.
Yeah, it's so easy to share information and pass the questions on to others and put it in that forum.
RC groups was my first. And then I found Cox Engine Forums, which was, as the name implies, heavy on Cox coverage. But they were mostly collectors back then, but now it's turned into lots of flyers and engine builders. And we cover not just Cox, we cover every brand of engine there is over there and have fun little forum contests where you mail in your results, whether it's a speed racing or a tack race or something like that. We try to keep something fresh going to keep the crowd interested. And so that's a fun little forum. It's small compared to Stunthangar, but then let's see. I think even before Stunthangar, see, it was RC Groups, then Cox Engine Forum, and then I found Stuka Stunt Works.
Yeah.
And when Derek Barry's Matrix was posted on the back cover of Stunt News, and I saw that, I had to learn more about that plane and the guy that built it, and was looking it up, and that's how I found Stunthangar. And it turned out he was a local, one of our guys right down here. So yeah, word gets around fast. Information is a lot easier to come by nowadays.
Yeah, well, I remember as a youngster, I belonged to the North Shore Model Club, but there weren't that many control line flyers in the club. And some of those moved on. Me and my brother were trying to learn the pattern, and we got our maneuvers wrong. You looked at them in this book, but it didn't translate to what you should have been flying an F2B. And it wasn't until much later on that we got to see people in person and watch them fly a pattern.
Yeah, if you were anything like me and you looked at those pictures, you thought a vertical 8 was supposed to look something like this, right out in front of you. And so I was trying to cram it all in that little area with no idea it was supposed to be straight overhead for the top part of that loop. Yeah. And so that was quite a learning curve. And it also made it a lot easier to fit the stunt into the allotted space too.
Yeah, watching others, you learn all the dirty tricks like flying your overhead, your vertical right behind your head virtually.
Yeah, get it back behind you. A little insurance room back there.
four-leaf clovers that take up 3/4 of the hemisphere and all of that. But that's stuff you learn by watching others when you've got a poor plan yourself. But before that, like you said, everything was sort of within that narrow window of what you imagined it should be according to a picture. But yeah, it was very, very informative going to a club, let alone finding a club that specialised in control line. General RC clubs, you've got lots of keen people, but they often can't answer your questions either.
Yeah, that's right. And that's all we got here in Columbia is remote control, radio control clubs. We didn't have any control line, but we did have some control line flyers. And so, and as luck would have it, the RC guys were friendly to the control line guys and kind of fascinated by what it is we can do with the control line plane. So they let us, take turns. And so that worked out pretty good. So far for me, all of the RC clubs have been friendly to us control liners. So I'm happy about that. Appreciate them.
Yeah. Most of the clubs I've belonged to have been quite good. You've got that crossover. If it's a healthy club and things are going well, you do have that crossover. You'll have control liners that'll fly RC and RCers that will fly control line, and happily mix the two just for more interest. But I have seen those clubs where they feel the control liners are invading their space and using up their runway.
Yeah. Yeah, there's jerks in every crowd, but as a general rule, yeah, it's a good relationship.
Yeah. I just remember as a youngster, you'd fly in whatever local park and you'd meet all sorts of interests, free flight, radio control, and it seems to be just more segmented now. Here's Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Good evening, Steve.
Hey, guys.
What's going on tonight? Did you have a good weekend?
Not too bad. I just sat around home. Didn't do much of anything, but
yeah, my wife was on a girlfriend trip down at the coast, so I had the house all to myself, and my son had a party, so I went over to his house, which is about an hour's drive from here, and hung out there Saturday night. So we had a good time.
Well, that's good. Yeah, my truck is in the shop, and it was supposed to be done Thursday, and then I went to pick it up, and they said Friday, and then Friday it still wasn't done. So now they're saying Tuesday. So I really didn't have a vehicle to go. I can take my company vehicle around town here, but I can't take off and go anyplace really with it.
What's wrong with your truck?
Brake lines rusted.
Oh, I remember you said that. Yeah. Yeah, you don't want that to bust loose while you're driving up down any hills. You don't.
Would be fun. So you've got Memorial Day today. It's your commemoration of those that have served your country.
That is correct. Yep. Most every city has some kind of a parade or celebration to honor their veterans, and we usually in Columbia have some flyovers, and usually the Doolittle Raiders show up too, or what's left of them, because they are one of their main training bases was right here in Columbia, out of the Fort Jackson area, and over Lake Murray they would run sorties and practice runs, and so we're quite familiar with the Doolittle Raiders, and
there's not too many of them left anymore.
Not very many.
A whole generation that are sadly passing on. But yeah, I've seen quite a few articles about the Doolittle Raiders and their B-25s. Amazing feat, their courage to do what they did, knowing full well that they probably wouldn't make it back. Having to land in China and occupied China at the time, that would have been very daunting. But,
yeah, I only have, out of both sides of the family, that were actually in the war or whatever, or husbands or whatever. I got one aunt that's left from World War II, and she's 99.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Was she in the military?
No, her husband was there. you know, so she, you know, she dealt with it that way. He was a prisoner of war and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, my mom, she was alive during World War II, but doesn't really remember much about World War II. You know, my dad, he was, you know, just a boy when World War II was going on. But
Yeah, my dad was 18 when Pearl Harbor was attacked, and so he joined up. He and his brother and a lot of the guys in the family joined up right then at that time.
My father's family were on the other side. So I had two uncles that died during, one on the Normandy invasion and one out in the Russian front. But my wife's side, they were on the other side, the Allied side, and she lost a couple of uncles as well during the war. But yeah, it certainly affected a lot of them, but none of the older ones that were involved in the war are still alive. My father was obviously in the Hitler Youth at the end of the war, got dragged into it, but he's not really able to talk about it anymore now. He's nearing the end.
yeah, he's gone now. Him and his out of his 5 brothers, 4 of them went. 2 of them in Europe, and then 2 of them in the Pacific. And he lost 1 brother and at Normandy, and 1 made it. And then I think it was Saipan. His other brother was killed, and he didn't know it till the end. But they were both on the same island.
Yeah.
You know, it was the day of the invasion. They landed. That his other brother died, but yeah, he said he didn't even find out until like a year later, and then when he got home, he found out that they were within a half a mile of each other.
Oh, wow.
When they hit the beach. But one was in the Army and one was in the Marines, I guess. So he never even knew. I think it was Saipan, someplace down there by Australia. So at the beginning of the island hopping thing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of war around the Solomon Islands and Papua New Guinea, and it really had a big impact on the Pacific. The Americans lost a lot of people in the Pacific. But yeah, it's very obvious now still when you look at all the different bases they built here in New Zealand. The Americans basically helped build up different military bases here and right throughout the Pacific. A lot of the airports they use today as commercial airports were old naval Air Force fields just for their island hopping. They established airfields in some of the most remote places, and it sort of changed the whole transportation after the war. People didn't have to go by boat anymore. Even where my mother's family originally came from the Wallis Islands, and the Wallis Islands is just like one huge airstrip right through the middle of the island, and that was basically built up by the Americans during the war, and at the end of the war it became their international airport.
Wow.
Yeah, it changed the Pacific a lot. You can see all the different ports that were built, and also they lost a lot of people, but yeah, they did leave their mark.
Yeah, I've been watching stuff on TV. It's hard to believe the amount of ports and airports and all that kind of stuff came into effect, and how travel and manufacturing and all that kind of stuff was out of World War II afterwards.
Yeah,
ship things and receive things, and
it was up till recently here in New Zealand we had a large canning plant. Wattie's cans, all the canned food was made in this World War II era American canning factory, and it's only recently that they've updated the machinery that I've heard, but it was infrastructure again left over from the war.
yeah.
But those technologies largely, I think you were talking about last week about the new lithium batteries that will probably be graphene based or something, but it's sort of leading new developments in the military applications, one where it's sort of pushing that technology to get high capacity batteries. And It's where we're in our aeromodeling field, we're still dependent on the military for some of these new innovations.
Yeah, I was watching tonight. He had Jay Leno's Garage or whatever, but he had on a military vehicle there that was a GM product changeover for the military. That was a hydrogen fuel cell, and it can be used to run I forget how many kilowatts it was, but it can be used to run a field hospital or field headquarters, whatever. It can go so long on.
That's pretty big fuel cell to be able to put out that kind of power.
Oh yeah.
So it's working as an auxiliary power unit, not just transport.
This one will take, you can fill it with hydrogen, but it also has batteries in it, and it will actually break down water to make hydrogen or natural gas you can put in it, and it'll make the hydrogen. It was really neat.
Yeah, that's the holy grail of fuel cells, is to be able to efficiently be able to do that. Just fill it with water and crack the hydrogen and oxygen out of it, and use it for power. They're not all that efficient yet, but it's like a lot of the other stuff we talked about. It's coming.
Yeah, and I don't know. It didn't say it could totally run on water, because it took a battery or whatever to break down the hydrogen, or break down the water into hydrogen. Well, then if it could actually break that down and then use the hydrogen to recharge the battery, so it could be a perpetual motion vehicle, but they didn't make that claim.
No, you need some.
Yeah,
some
not quite there yet, but they're still able to get a little more out of it than they put into it. So it's that is a misleading statement. There's no such thing as free energy, but yeah, they're getting there if they can just crack water and get the goods out of it.
That's where the solar cells work well. To use the solar cells to break down the water into oxygen and hydrogen, and then store the energy in batteries. But it's hopefully a long-term solution.
Yeah, I had a professor, and we went all through that in college, and he actually had a business trying to be able to crack hydrogen, and he had a new way of doing it or whatever. He said it was going to work, that would bring it down to making hydrogen cost about $2.50 a gallon, equal to gasoline.
Yeah,
because I think it was like $4.20 a gallon was the break-even point to what it costs to make hydrogen over, if you made your own hydrogen, or if you had to buy gasoline. But
yeah, the space program's been powering their command modules and computers and such for years now, since the Apollo program with hydrogen fuel cells.
yeah, he had he managed an airport, and he was always on the cutting edge of heating and cool. That's why I did heating and cooling, and he thought that was going to be the next thing in heating and cooling, was going to be the hydrogen fuel cell. Because if you could have something that in your house, air conditioning, you could actually, electric heat or burn the hydrogen for a furnace or something like that. He had things that would run off fuel cells, and but that's been 20 some years ago now, and it still not on the market.
Yeah, still coming.
Yeah, but that's what he was working. And he had some cool stuff, little fuel cell, would put out a lot of energy. You know, he's like, oh, this will run your house and all this kind of stuff. But you know,
Yeah, I look forward to the day where every residential house has its own fuel cell out back with no need to hook up to a public utility. I mean, that's a long way off, still, but
he was saying that because he was trying to get methane from a dump, and then you can turn methane into hydrogen. I guess that turns easier into hydrogen or whatever. And a big power company, whatever, came in there and basically booted his ass out. You know, they were going to do something. They were generating electricity from it. They were just burning the methane and turning generators or whatever. That was in Chicago. But yeah, he had all these cool ideas and all this, but he just couldn't get it to work. You know, he didn't have enough money. Basically, there wasn't all this venture capitalism and all that kind of stuff back there when you didn't have to make money for 10 years. People would pour gobs of money into your business.
We had a methane plant here in New Zealand that converted the methane gas from the wells that they're drilling off the coast of Taranaki. They're taking the natural gas and converting it into methanol. So for a while, we're getting our methanol from our planes from the natural gas under the ground. But at some point, as the gas supply started to diminish, then they've gone back to importing methanol again. But methanol as a fuel source would be nothing like a fuel cell. It's inefficient. But that's where, do they use fuel cells in any full-size aircraft? I know electric aircraft are problematic because of the limitations of size and range. But a fuel cell seemed to be a logical answer to that.
Yeah, you know, I don't believe that they'll ever like get airlines, you know, trains, stuff like that ever. You know, trains now are electric, but they generate their own electricity from diesel.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, to actually have a battery or, you know, they just take so much power that, you know, I don't think ever, especially aircraft, will ever be electric.
Is that how train locomotives run? They run a diesel powered generator to turn electric motors to turn the wheels.
Yeah.
Some take it from overhead gantries. Some take it like a trolley bus. If you've ever had the trolley buses, like we used to have trolley buses here when I was young, and it took the power from overhead lines.
Yeah, like they do in some cities here, Seattle, for instance.
Yeah, well, here in New Zealand, we've got electric trains in the central North Island, and now they've got them here in Auckland. So they're not diesel electric; they're dependent on an overhead line. So when there's a power cut, no trains. They're stuck in tunnels and stuck everywhere. But most of the electricity here is generated from hydropower, so they're able to say that they're making renewable energy and using it in trains.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I saw on what was an air show they were talking about. It was in Europe. I can't remember if it was France or Germany, but they were talking about electric aircraft, and they said the technology's there, the equipment's available, just for small light planes like a little Cessna 172 size aircraft to use that as an electric aircraft. But it had a limited flight time of about an hour or something at the upper end, and that's where we'll need that big leap forward in batteries to go any further than an duration. Because there's a big drive here in New Zealand to do as much as we can with renewable resources, and like where my wife Alina works at the council, they've got a fleet of electric cars, but they're renowned for breaking down in peak hour traffic with not enough charge left in them, stuck on the motorway, and that happens because you think, oh, you're sitting in traffic, you're not using any power, but if you've got the air conditioning on and the wipers are going and the lights are going and the battery's going flat and you're going nowhere. So they're all a bit reluctant to use these electric cars. They're worried of getting stuck somewhere. Is there a big upswing to electric cars where you are in Carolina? Do you see many on the road?
Yeah, there's a lot of, well, the Prius was always, that was one of the early ones, and it's still one of the more popular ones that you see. But nowadays, you don't always realize you're looking at a hybrid or an electric. Because they don't. When they first came out, they all looked funny because they were built for low wind resistance, and now they just make them look like regular cars, and so you don't realize you're looking at a hybrid or electric. Here comes Rich. Good evening.
Howdy, guys.
What's going on?
Yeah, we've got a few of the types here, but not that many.
We're just sitting here discussing electric power systems for planes, trains, and automobiles.
Okay.
I suppose that they've got to work for ships or something. If you can have a large enough fuel cell, you think the weight's not really a problem. But the first steam turbines and all of the development because of the weight took place on ships and locomotives.
Here comes Tryon. Rich, when you came in, the sound went to crap.
Oh,
I don't know why. If it might be just a coincidence. Let me let Tryon in. There we go. As soon as he gets his earplugs in, we can talk to him.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
do anything this weekend?
Friday, when I got kicked out, I couldn't get back on Stunthangar to get back in.
Wow.
The Stunthangar is working better now than it was last week. It was slow as snails last week, but I think they just had server problems. But it seems to be all better now. Hey, Tryon.
Gentlemen, how's it going?
Good.
Oh, it's pretty good. We're just sitting here babbling about what little we know about electric power systems for planes, trains, and automobiles, fuel cells, and that sort of thing.
I heard this. Well, I found out about this last night watching. I don't know what the hell I was watching the History Channel. Whatever. Who knows the first governor's name was of North Carolina?
The first governor of North Carolina?
Yeah, what his name was?
I have no idea.
Ryan.
Oh,
What?
Yeah, the same as yours. He was from Germany. He was born in Germany. That was before it was a state.
Ah,
But yeah, he was born in Germany, and they named some building after him or something that's still there in the original. Because I guess Bern was the first capital, and that was a Swiss German deal. But look it up; it was on the History Channel. Something I was watching, and they gave the name, and I'm like, oh my god, that is so crazy. Never knew that before, but
it's probably my honor.
it could be relative of yours. You're named after.
Odds are no.
Everybody's like, if they ask you what kind of name is that? That's the first governor of North Carolina. I was named after him.
Wow, interesting. But you know what? Trajan is actually one of the first emperors of Rome. Way back when. So it's not even German; it's Latin.
Oh, okay.
and a lot of names like that, they really go back into prehistory. You do a search on the meaning of a name on the internet, and it's often quite fascinating to see where it originated from. I suppose the United States is a country of immigrants, similar to New Zealand, and you've got all the different ethnic groups that move to different places. We were watching a video about the first immigrants that moved to the States in Boston.
Yeah, I don't know what language it is called anymore, but when I lived in Switzerland, the Swiss people speak German, French, Italian, and like a dialect of Latin. They call it something. They call it the original Swiss language.
Wow.
And it's some type of a Latin there. But
My son took about 3 years of Latin in high school, but it was a baffling language. I, all I ever studied was Spanish, but it was relatively easy to learn compared to the Latin that my son took, and it was a difficult language to learn.
Well, most all of the European languages, except English, come from Latin.
No, even English comes from Latin.
Yeah, some of it, but not. I mean,
English vocabulary, it's 50% Latin, 50% German.
Yeah,
but the grammar, it's 80% German and 20% Latin.
If you look at the roots to a lot of words in all different languages, you can always find some Latin roots in the words.
Yes. Yeah. So, but from what I know, English is about 50%, 50-50 words between German and Latin, and it's 80-20 when it comes to grammar. 80% German grammar, 20% Latin.
Tryon, how long have you been speaking English?
Since I came here.
How long is that?
Well, it's 30 years or so.
Oh, that long ago. Okay.
Yeah. It has become my primary language right now. I think in English. I speak in English.
Oh, that's cool. And my buddy from Switzerland there, he spoke German, French, Spanish, some Portuguese, and then he spoke that Latin deal from Switzerland. And he spoke Czechoslovakian, I guess, some of that. But he was over for his dad, and but he said that he had the roughest time actually with the Russian and stuff. That
Cyrillic
also. But he said that the Russian language was, or the Slavic language, I guess, was the hardest.
or that's called Cyrillic, isn't it?
I'm not sure. He called it a Slavic, Russian or the Slavic language, but his dad did business in Poland and in Russia and Czechoslovakia. And
if I'm not mistaken, Slavic is an ethnic reference, where Cyrillic is a language reference. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's just at the root of most languages are German, Latin, or Slavic, some sort combination of those things. For example, Romanian language it's all 100% Latin-based vocabulary, but it's also 100% Slavic grammar, and it's very unique. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So,
is the alphabet is the Slavic alphabet?
No, it's Latin alphabet.
It is, okay. So each letter has a phonetic pronunciation like English does. Is that right?
Yeah. But Romanian language, the way you speak the word is the way you write it. No double T's, no double S's, no double bullshit, none of that. None of that. You say the word one way and you write it completely different way.
That was my buddy there from Switzerland. We went to a baseball game. We took him to a baseball game, and we get there and stuff. We're explaining to him how it works, and we got to the pitcher, and he's like, "Oh my God, you have another meaning for the word pitcher?" He says, "Did the English run out of words?" He goes, "They couldn't think of nothing else to call it."
Yeah, well, you are also in a pickle if you don't know that.
Yeah, he couldn't believe, that there's so many different things that was called a picture.
Steve, I finally got that 4S battery from you.
Yeah.
I put it on the stand and I'm started to running. I'm started to run the little motor that I set aside for Alexander's twister plane. So I want to see how many amps it's gonna draw.
Oh, okay.
So that way I know at maximum amps in a flight I know I'm not gonna exceed that, so I can size the ESC pretty well for it. So that's that. The next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put that 800 plus kilovolt joker on it too, to see
Okay.
what maximum RPM, what amp drawage and I get and stuff like this, to see if it's a feasible something I can try. Because in 4S I have a lot more battery selection that's gonna bring it close to the 80% usage of the battery.
Yeah.
5S, I'm not sure.
5S really doesn't have many choices. I think 6 has more than 5, but usually 6 are all larger.
Mhm.
I forget, one battery company was making like an 1800 milliamp 6 cell, but it seems like that's gone now. I thought that was something Hobby King had, and I can't even find that anymore.
I don't think it exists anywhere.
No, not anymore. I mean, it's just,
You might find a 5S. You might find a 5S 2200, but that's about as small as they get. 6S they bottom out at 28, from what I know, and the only 28 6S that I know of is the Thunder Power. And after that, but the 4S you have lots of
yeah.
range.
Yeah, about the thing you could do is put them together, I guess.
Yeah. So
Take the 3S 3S 1800 and come up with a 6S 1800.
not worth it.
You don't think it's worth it in the weight, or
No. As soon as you start patching up two batteries like that, by the time you put the wires to combine the two batteries and all the other stuff that goes around alongside with it, you're already almost the same weight as the 6S pack, so it's not worth it.
Well, I was wondering, have you seen these new ends? Well, you had an end there, I think you made up, to where you could plug a Dean's, and then the other end was um, a X something 60. Didn't you have a little thing you made up?
I made something up for that.
Yeah. Why couldn't you make up something that had 2 plugs for a Dean's and 1 plug out in that small of a little?
It still adds weight.
Yeah. But if you saved all of that in the battery pack.
You don't. You don't, because I look at this. I look at the 3S that are in like say 2000 milliamps, and they're like 150 grams. Two of those are already the same weight as the 6S that I have right now at 2800. So I said, well, I got the extra power, I got the extra battery, and less trouble. Why go through it?
Yeah, it seemed like that 1800, 2 of them would be just a lot lighter than a
hmm
than a 28.
Yeah, I have to go to 2000 6S for my needs to make sure I'm safe.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I get the 1400 milliamp run on it. Sometimes 1450, sometimes 13 something. All depends on what the conditions are. So, yeah.
Yeah, see what? Yeah, I was, and I haven't flown. I don't know the exact RPMs or whatever. But on the 4-cell pack, I was checking with that Cobra motor. Looks like I'm only going to be running around 23 amps.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody's putting a 40 ESC on them and stuff like that. And it's like, to me, that seems like a lot of overkill.
If you're running 20 amps on your stand in the air, you always use less
But
because you are moving through the air. So if you go say 25 amps ESC, should be plenty safe. So that's kind of like what I'm thinking about doing. And
I didn't know on an Igor deal, when you turn a corner and you up the RPM, what the spike would be on that.
still tested on maximum. You test it with like a servo tester.
Yeah.
It doesn't care. Like Igor has some range in which it runs, right?
Yeah.
But it's never over 100% throttle. So if you use a servo tester at maximum 100% throttle, you know what your absolute maximum in flight, because that's what you're gonna get. So
Right.
regardless what the Igor is putting out.
Okay.
So with the servo tester, what you do, you just find the absolute maximum amperage that you'll ever use. So once you know that, I mean, from that point on, you can size everything else. So
You don't need the maximum amperage that the motor will draw. You just need to know the maximum amperage at the RPM you want is going to be.
true, but just in case, the safest way to do the worst case scenario. And worst case scenario is 100% throttle, right?
Okay.
But if you know at 100% throttle, you're drawing, say, 20 amps on the ground. In the air, it's a lot less than that. So if a 20 amp ESC will be absolute maximum you'll ever get, you're kind of on the edge. But maybe a little next size up ESC, say 25 or 22 or something like that, give you a little bit of headroom, should work fine. I don't see why not.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I tested it that way at max throttle, 100%. It draws like 34, a little over 34 amps, and that's right at that 35 amp Castle ESC. Or right at the edge.
Yeah, but now there are all kinds of data loggers out there that you can plug it in your plane on the first flight.
Yeah.
And after you fly, you can find exactly, what's your maximum draw for that particular plane,
Yeah.
for those exact parameters. But in time, you change things. So you might as well just get prepared for that. Now, since we're talking about electrical systems, is that electrics are more efficient at lower RPM. So they have maximum efficiency at 0 RPM, basically. So if you can up the pitch and lower the RPM without losing the thrust, then I think you're going to use less energy than a low pitch, high RPM setup. So, for what it's worth, that's.
Do
you want to lower the RPM?
you have a 5-cell pack at home?
I didn't understand anything because too many have typing. We have overlapping.
Sorry, I'm typing.
Not a problem.
Sorry, I'm on my cell phone. The power's gone out here talking about electricity. So I've got my cell phone. I can't see or hear people terribly clear, but I'll stick around for a little bit longer until.
Well, I thought you had a question there, Gerald.
I did. Do you have a 5-cell battery pack also?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. When you test this, the next time, let us know what the draw is on, what your amperage is on a 4-cell, a 5-cell, and a 6-cell. What the difference?
Yeah.
How big a difference it is.
Okay, I'll do that. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use the same propeller, different motors that are rated for those kilovoltage for those batteries, and I'm gonna bring them all at the same exact RPM on the same exact prop. So we're gonna have a direct side-by-side comparison for for motors that are built for 6S, for a 5S, and for a 4S, for example. Because the motor I'm running right now on my plane is built for 6S. Okay, the motor with a little bit higher kV is built for 5S, and the highest kV motor that I have is built for 4S. Right? They all have the same exact shape, same exact weight, same exact thing, except for the windings that go inside the motor. So I'm trying to compare motors that are built and optimized for that kind of a setup that are virtually identical. I'm
So
not sure.
are Cobras the only motors that are built to run all different size battery packs?
Yes, I mean their motors. The higher the kilovoltage, the lower the voltage they tolerate. As
Right.
the kilovoltage goes down, the voltage they tolerate is higher.
Yeah, I understand that. But if you get a Cobra and look at their battery and prop charts,
Mhm.
you can run any battery you want on there, from a 3 cell to a 6 cell,
Mhm.
and they tell you what, basically what prop will over amp the motor.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it never does show on there. Say if you're using a 10-6
Mhm.
and a 4 cell turning that is at 10,000 or 11,000 RPM, and it draws this many amps.
Mhm.
If you go to a 5 cell, now they're looking at that prop, turning 12,000 RPM. It doesn't say what it turns it at the same exact RPM.
Yes, that's true because they only test maximum that they can get out of it.
Oh, okay. Because
So
what
that's
I was thinking is that if you have a motor that will take a 4 cell and turn it 10,000 RPM, and it draws 20 amps. If you hook a 5 cell to that motor and turn the same many RPMs, the amperage should drop on that.
that's correct.
So it'd actually be easier on that motor, easier on the ESC. So, like, could you put a 6 cell on it then? And then drop, the power to it, but still only turn 10,000 RPM. Then everything should drop even more. You should get less heat, better efficiency that way.
Are you talking about the same motor or different windings or what?
Motor, same ESC, just change the batteries.
Ah, no, I would say no. If it's the same motor and same ESC for the same exact RPM, I think you're gonna need because the motor is based on certain kilovoltage kV volts per. I mean the RPM per volt. You have
Right.
so many RPM per each volt that you provide the motor, and no load at zero load, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it is tested. So if you have nothing on a shaft and you put 1 volt on a 500 kilovolt motor, you should get 500 RPM out of the motor, right? But there's nothing on a shaft, nothing hooked up to the motor.
Right.
So that's
Exactly.
what the kilovoltage is, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you go from 4S to 5S to 6S on the same ESC and the same motor and the same RPM, you are most likely getting the same amperage draw uh, at the same RPM. But the caveat here is that uh, you have the same voltage going into the motor. There's no way out, right? So the only place that you might make a change, it's upstream. I'm thinking upstream as the battery to the ESC and downstream from the ESC to the motor, right?
Okay.
So upstream, as the batteries get higher and higher voltage, they have a very easy time just pumping the current into the ESC, right? That the ESC requires so it can spin the motor. As the batteries get smaller and smaller, it's more required of them, right? So the only place where you change efficiency is the upstream side, from the battery to the ESC. That's it. Now, if you want to achieve appropriate RPM for different battery, you may have to go to, I think Cobras have, each motor size has a dash something behind it. And dash something behind it is based on a kilovoltage to which the motor is being wound up.
Yeah.
Right? They have the same casing, same weights, same everything. I mean, if you put a Cobra, say 3520, and next dash whatever they have next to another Cobra 3520 dash something else, next to another 3520 dash something else, the only thing, the difference between them, it's the way they are being wound up and how much is the maximum RPM they will provide. So based on how much RPM you think you're going to use in a flight, you're going to say, well, I think the best fit is going to be this motor because at this voltage times, at say 4S, for example, 4-cell battery times 3.7 volts times the kilovolt rating for that motor, I expect to see about this much RPM, minus something, because you always load up the motor. So, but if you look at the other motors, they have different kilovoltage, and probably the lower kilovoltage is able to spin much bigger props, and it will also spin at a little bit lower RPM. They're more like of a low gear motors, right? The high kilovoltage motors are like a high gear motor where they don't have as much drive, but they go fast, right?
Right.
So it all depends on the needs, right?
Right. But what I'm saying is, if you got a 900 and some kilovolt motor,
Mm-hmm.
your ESC to be able to turn down the RPM, and you only want to turn a 10.6 prop. Does it matter which battery you use to turn that 10.6 prop? Or is it in the timer on how far that'll adjust down the ESC for how much power it gives?
Of course, yeah, because a 6S battery has so many voltage, right? Or 24 volts or so. 5S volt will give you about 18 volts or so. A 4S is going to give you 15, somewhere thereabouts, right? 14.9, 15 something, Now, based on that maximum voltage and the kilovoltage, you can always get so much RPM. But obviously, let's say the 5S and the 4S will still be able to turn your motor at the RPM that you need for your flight.
Right.
Okay. In that case, I think all things are equal upstream except for one thing. The 4S will have to have the C rating capacity to pump the juice into the ESC so it can spin the motor, right? While the 6S will have a much easier time. Now, if you look at the voltage versus capacity, you multiply them on all three of them. 4S voltage times the capacity of the battery equals the 5S voltage times the capacity of the battery, and also equals the 6S voltage times the capacity of the battery. So as the voltage goes up, capacity goes lower. So
I had to go to more and more volts, so I went to a 12-cell pack in order to get the wattage out of the battery pack. Basically, to get the amount of energy out of it, I had to raise the voltage, and that's why some of these new power tools, instead of being 18 volt, they're 48 volt. They've raised the voltage so that they can effectively make those battery packs hold the same amount of energy of a much bigger pack.
Yeah, that's because So, say you have a motor that requires that 20 amperes and say the 15 volts, right? Now you can get 15 volts after the out of the 15 AAA 10 AAA batteries, right? They're 1.5 volts each, right?
Yeah.
So you can get the AAA batteries, put 10 of them. Yeah, okay, I have the 15 volts. But when you look at how much amps each one can put out, if it's just 1 amp, this 15-volt battery pack, it can only put out 1 amp, and the motor needs 20. So now you get this 10 set. So you need 20 of these packs, which are considerably larger, and heavier, to be able to supply the amps that the motor is requiring to do that. And that's another thing that to look at, when you look at electric systems, right? Do I have enough? I mean, can the battery? And that's what the C rating it's all about. Okay. If a battery pack is rated, say 10C, just to keep it simple, right? And it has a capacity of say 2000 milliamps, right? If you take the 2000 milliamps and multiply it by 10, gives you what? 20,000 milliamps, which is 220 amps going to the motor maximum from that battery pack, right?
Well, you can think of it in terms of watt. You've got your volts times amps. So the capacity is more important with the smaller voltage packs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and going
that's
around
something
to yeah, and I'm going back
I
to
was
what
gonna
Steve was saying about that. All those motors, same size motor, different kilovoltage, they all have a wattage, never to exceed maximum watts that come out of the motor. So if your voltage and your amperage that goes in the motor doesn't exceed that limit, likely you're not going to burn the motor. But you're on the high end of it, you're going to create a lot of heat.
And what you were saying before about the most efficient electric motor is one that runs at lower RPM. How do you apply that without going to a prop that's too big, without going to a 15-inch prop to get that motor working efficiently at low RPM? How do you work that equation?
Yeah, well, that's based on flying your plane and see what it does, right?
It's hard to
Now, if
predict
you
the trade-off
obviously,
until you put it in the air and try it, because
uh-huh,
heavier prop's going to cause more heat, more energy loss, and so some of that
yeah.
is variables that it's hard to just plug in before you fly and try.
Well, that's on a bench before you even fly the plane. If you want to find out what's a good ESC before you even fly it, right? But now, as you fly the plane, let's say, uh, Gerald, you have the super light plane, right? To create acceleration, what happens when you fly a corner, especially in the corners, right? I'm not talking about the rounds because it's kind of even and it really doesn't matter there, right?
Yeah.
But in a corner, you fly a corner, the plane slows down, right? And now you want to get back up to speed, right? To regain that control on the plane, to regain your line tension, so now you can hit the next corner, right? Make
So
sense?
you
Okay.
want the acceleration.
Yeah, you want the acceleration. Now, if you have a heavy plane, you need more force, more thrust out of the propeller. So you must use a low pitch and a higher RPM setup, right? If you use a super light plane, you can get away with a higher pitch and a lower running RPM plane for the same acceleration, right?
Yeah.
So it all depends on what do you get in the air. It's like, well, I'm flying this corner. I need a bit more speed out of it, so I can get back up to speed. Well, then you have to lower the pitch and up the RPM, which is not very good for electric, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
It's similar to glows in a way, though, too. A heavy plane is just going to require more horsepower out of your equation.
True, but But
Wait.
in a IC motor, it's very easy to just get more RPM. You just put a little bit more nitro, put a little bit of it. It's a lot of energy over there that you can use, right? Or
Yeah.
yeah, so it's easier for an IC motor, and because they produce the maximum power and maximum RPM pretty much, right? And they max out the torque there too. But the electrics are opposite, they max torque at a low RPM. Um, so this is why I'm thinking that if you build for electric, you have to go with a much cleaner airfoil than you do for IC. And
How about Bob Hunt's idea? Where Bob Hunt said, well, have multiple engines, have an electric twin and make the wing more efficient by passing more air over it, like an airliner where you pass the air over the wing to make it more efficient, get more lift out of it by using more prop area, but dividing the prop area over multiple engines or multiple motors, I should say.
Yeah, but that also requires another AC and perhaps another battery. So
Yeah.
anytime you add a second motor into a system, I mean, get ready for more battery usage, because it's just normal. And get ready for another ESC, get ready for another, it's all adds weight, right? So yeah, I think if you build for electric, I think you should thin out the airfoil as much as you can, and still keep the plane in control, so it doesn't want to speed up on a downline. It doesn't want to charge by itself, right? So by doing that, you require a lot less energy from the motor from the get-go to just fly normal, right? Then when you turn a corner with it, if you ever looked at the gliders, they fly a pylon racing with the gliders. They have a super thin airfoil and very small movements on the flaps and the elevator, yet they turn like gangbusters. So I don't think the super thick airfoil is actually an answer to to everything.
No, I can't see it helping on electric, and with the twin, it could, in theory, have a thinner airfoil because you've got more effective prop wash over your thinner wing. So I just think back of Bob Hunt's. I'm not sure if it's a twin Pathfinder. It was that style of model. He had the retracts on it and the twin engines, and he said it was his holy grail of the stunt model for a while. But I'm wondering if there's more gem down that one, if you can find something out of that formula.
Yeah. Well, if I wanted to build something as an X-plane for electric to try something else, or if I was probably in your position, somebody that or many people's position that cannot build a composite plane, right? I would go probably to a thin I-beam wing. Maybe even build it elliptical wing, right? Something similar to what Wendy did with his Spitfire wing. If you ever saw the I-beam Spitfire, the so-called I-beam Spitfire, because it was not built like an I-beam anyways, but I would build something like that, maybe make a spar that looks like with little notches on top and the bottom, so the ribs can fit in the notch, right? And I just put some unidirectional carbon fiber strip, like say 1/4 of an inch wide. Just run it around across the top, across the bottom, on both sides, and that should be incredibly stiff wing, super light, right? So that should keep the wing light. Now, if you make electric plane, then you need to think about the fuselage as well. I mean, you don't need 1/16 inch doublers. You don't even need doublers for that matter, other than reinforcing the nose where you put your nose ring for the motor. That's it. Maybe a little bit of reinforcements here and there where you put the battery, but nothing much. Try to get as much airflow through the motor, through the battery, We'll probably keep the airfoil up like 15-16% on a root, maybe 13-14 on a tip. Very thin, slender wingtips, right? Keep it light, and man, that thing is going to perform like gangbusters. It's gonna slice through the air so easily. It's gonna corner well. I mean, it's just a different philosophy, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Dennis was saying the same on Friday. He was saying, yeah, the 15% aerofoil is the way to go. I suppose you still need a little round leading edge. It doesn't stall out, but the overall.
It maintains its energy very well. Yes. Yeah. Now think about when you do a overhead 8, right? You're just climbing with the wind in your face, right? You get on top of the head where it's like just being slingshot, right? So you gain a lot of speed over there, right? So now as you start, you do your inside loop. As soon as you get to 45 degrees with the nose into the wind, and it sees all that big fat airfoil, it's like a parachute. It slows you down, slows you down, slows you down. And what you see people doing, they just fly level, and then it just pulls it up. because the plane doesn't penetrate. Once the plane penetrates, then your vertical 8 looks kind of easy. Your 4-leaf clover, it's easy. Your overheads are easy. A lot of stuff get easier compared to a thick airfoil. But the thick airfoil requires lots of horsepower. It's almost, I would think, thick airfoil is good for a heavy plane that's IC powered. But if you go thick airfoil on a heavy plane that's electric, you're going to be disappointed.
Too, when you fly a profile model and you fly a bolt up, similar size model, similar weight, the profile model definitely feels draggy. It's using more horsepower to get through the maneuvers. It doesn't perform as well in the wind, where a cleaner, built-up model definitely penetrates better. You have that bit more control in the wind. They just feel like they need less horsepower because of the less drag.
I'm not sure if that's the profile versus built-up fuselage has that big of a difference, but it might. It might, okay. But
if it's all hanging out in the breeze, I think it does make a difference, because if you've got a tank and a motor hanging out in the breeze, and just from my own experience, is that they feel cleaner when everything's tucked in there nicely. And I suppose a thick wing on a profile model does feel like it needs more horsepower than the same model, a built-up model with minimal undercarriage. As the frontal profile drops off, then it needs less horsepower, by my way of reckoning, anyway.
Yeah. We're putting somebody to sleep here.
Hey, Dick.
Big time.
Oh, Leonard better come on if you need a nap. I'm gonna have to shoot off anyway. Because my boys will be home from school any minute.
To Canada, he's getting his practice in.
So, Rich, you awake yet?
Sure.
Go flying today at all?
Pardon?
Did you get out flying today?
It's so windy.
No, I was.
I was going to bring that tank over to you, but I had problems with my lawnmower and stuff, and I finally got my lawn. Well, I didn't even get my lawn mowed when the rain hit, and then I got Samantha's car done, and it was too late. But I got that tank someplace that I showed last Friday that goes down for your dagger.
Yeah.
So,
well, I got an 1/8-inch shim I can pull out of the tank, and that should be just about right to get.
Oh, you got? Oh, okay. Yeah, that should be just about. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, I made it adjustable so I can raise and lower the tank.
Oh, okay. Because I know that you said you didn't have room for a plastic tank because of the pipe.
Yeah, no, the Vector I'm building, I got plenty of room in that one for any tank, because I cut the motor mounts down a 1/4 inch deep.
Oh, okay.
Because that one there, fuse is done, tail feathers are done, wings on the board. Got to sheet the leading edge and put the bell crank in it.
What did you make up a? Did you make up a new rod system?
Well, I just bought some 5/16 fiberglass shafting from McMaster Car. You get them in 6-foot lengths, they're about $3 a piece.
Oh, okay, because I know you gave me that one back, so I'm like, well,
I made new ones, and made up brackets and everything and milled out the patterns and all that crap. And yeah, it's that way I can build a wing in one chunk.
So, Rich, that's a Vector?
Yeah, Vector, Brodak Vector, yeah. Because
Yeah.
the new one's got holes in the ribs. So you don't have to build it on a board. So you can build it on a wing jig.
Oh, shit, yeah. The one I have doesn't have any holes for the rods or anything like that.
Yeah,
Well-
the new one does.
yeah. When did you get that one, Dick?
What?
When did you get that kit? Couple.
I don't know, about a month ago.
Oh, okay. Because when you told me that, all the vectors one that I did never had the holes in there.
Yeah,
Yeah. Little piece of block. So must be something new. They must have reprogrammed the burner or whatever.
could be, yeah. Because I got, I built a magnetic fuselage jig, so the fuselage only took about an hour to frame all that up and tack it, so
I see.
That's good.
got Stalker 46 RE in it.
Oh, sounds like a great motor for it.
Yeah. Because I've been playing with that dagger and I'm not happy yet. I've got some trim problems.
What was really crazy was yesterday they put a 3-bladed, what was it, a
12 clicks.
on a Stalker side exhaust 46, and Pat's flying 6-second laps with it, and it just holds out there like it's on rails.
Yeah, that's on 64-foot lines.
Yeah, it doesn't change speeds. It doesn't burp. It doesn't do anything. It's almost like an electric how it runs that with that.
Too much load. That's too much load on the motor, Steve.
But the
Burns
Stalker's
3.5 ounces of fuel.
It still doesn't matter. Too much load.
Flies great.
Yeah,
Okay.
the motor runs good. It does. It's not.
I'm in love with it with that 10-blade prop.
Yeah.
sound like a stroke. They're very torquey.
What's
Well,
that?
Well, the Stalkers sound like they're a 4-stroke. They can swing a much bigger prop, and they've just got that torque. I know Charles Carter talked about how big a prop he used on his Stalker, and it was a massive prop by comparison to traditional 2-stroke. That must be some different level, whatever, but they seem to, all their power seems to be under 9,000 RPM. It seems very low down.
Yeah, the one thing is that prop is it looks like an electric prop, and it's made of wood and it's super thin.
Yeah.
You got one right there, Dick, or not?
Yeah, this is that broken one.
Oh,
The one that came through broke, but it's the tips are so thin on it. But I don't know, that thing flies great, turning 5.8 laps, 5.8 to 5, to 6 seconds.
Mhm.
Overhead,
RPM is the
good line tension, don't slow down.
that's great.
Yeah.
The
Well-
Stalker will pull a huge prop.
Yeah.
I'm running a 68-inch Gladiator, 68 ounces with a Stalker 51 in it, running a 13.6 on it. Pulls it like no tomorrow.
I mean, yeah, there are a lot of people that like this 4-cycle-ish uniform run from beginning to the end of the flight. But from what I know, when you run a motor, you can have one of the three things, right? You can have the runaway run when it runs 4-cycle, and as soon as you start maneuvers, it goes in a 2-cycle and stays there forever. It never cycles through. You have the run where the motor actually does the 2-4 brake in a maneuver, and behaves nicely. And you have the motor that goes like you like it, like 4-cycle everywhere. You know, maybe a burp of 2 cycles here and there.
Got a 2.4
And-
brake.
Huh?
It's got a 2.4 brake. It's not
Oh,
very severe at all. It's
Yeah,
real.
really, you
If I put a light pitch prop on it, it goes nuts on it when it
Yes.
goes 2-cycle.
Yeah. So usually the one that's the motors that will run away, run 4-cycle and then run away, they don't have enough load on them. The prop is too small, and just the prop is too small in diameter, not enough load on the motor, right? Might have the right diameter and stuff like that, but not enough weight on the prop. So the load it's low, right? If the load is very high, it's going to stay in a 4-cycle the whole flight. It will try to brake, but will very hardly ever brake. You know, just kind of like still stay in 4-cycle, 4-cycle, 4-cycle. Maybe a little burp here and there, you know, of 2-cycle, but it's mostly 4-cycle.
No, they got a nice, clean 2-cycle brake swinging
Oh.
that 3-blade.
Then you're fine.
Yeah.
Then you're fine. If you get the nice run, that's all you want. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have a nice load.
Yeah,
But
the
if you
problem was all the props we were putting on that 46 were running away. It
Yeah.
broke so hard that
yeah, you have to go bigger diameter, heavier prop, something, another blade.
we end up going with that 3-blade, and it just calmed that motor down so much that it made it really nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
That wants to put a
Can't believe
13.5 on it.
Yeah, we had one 13.5.
Yeah, he wanted to try it, but he fell in love with that 3-blade, so we never got to put the 13-inch on it.
Yeah.
Guys, we're facing a huge dilemma here. If we talk electric, Rich falls asleep.
Me too.
Talk IC, Russ falls asleep.
Electrics, but I
Hey,
don't.
let me clear this up. I love learning this stuff from you guys, but it just bores me to tears sometimes. You know what? The part that I like best about it is that there's the architecture of the airframes are so much different when you use electric
Yeah.
than I ever expected.
I did that. Walker's doing another twin. I hope he puts retracts on it.
Paul Walker's making a twin, or
Yeah, well, yeah, Paul. It sounds like Paul Walker is going to try it. A twin.
Go for it, man.
Mm,
It'd be interesting to see how it develops in the long term.
Yeah, Bob Hunt's. Well, you figure Bob Hunt ran 10 size electric motors on his 60, and he thought the motors were actually too big. That he could have knocked it down to like 480s, Park Flyer 480s on a 60 size ship. He's flying 700 square inches. So, you know, that was the same thing too. He said that he was dropping 20% of the battery usage by running retracts.
Yeah, if you pull the gear up, that cleans that airplane up like crazy.
No.
The consumption of his batteries, he had like another minute's flying with the gear up versus down. It use a much smaller battery by using the retracts.
Gerald, you're breaking up pretty bad on audio there.
Oh, I'm on my cell phone and we've got really bad weather and my battery's probably getting to the
Yeah.
boys at nearly.
Yeah.
I might.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, so I'll sign off anyway.
It's not bad enough. I was just commenting. I had forgotten you had told us that earlier, but it's not doing it right now.
Gerald,
Yeah,
try your headphones.
I might try them after, but right now I'll have glasses here, and if the power doesn't come on, I'll try headphones, but I can't go on our laptop until the power comes back on because I'm using the my cell phone and the modem's down until the power's back on as well. So I'll bid you all good night. If it comes back on, I'll come back on later.
Okay.
So
Good night.
I'll bid you
I actually had to turn Rich down a little bit earlier because there was some kind of chatter coming in through that hole in the internet. I don't know how it gets there, but some people come in and some chatter comes with them. Like Sparky almost always brings some kind of background noise when he comes in.
That chatter, that wasn't chatter you were hearing from it. That was snoring. Talking electric, he started snoring.
Yeah. I've had my eyes closed. I was going to sleep. I was shucking around with the YouTube guys at the same time too. So talking about throwing spark plugs at people going down the road from a motorcycle. Anybody ever done that? Keep a pocket full of spark plugs so you can chuck them at people that cut you off in traffic.
No, never.
They claimed it must be an East Coast thing, but I assured them I'd never heard of it. That's when I found out they were talking about motorcycles, not necessarily cars.
Okay.
I've done a lot of weird shit in cars, but throwing spark plugs at people's not one of them.
No.
Now they better catch me on a good day if they throw a spark plug at me and hit me. Because if they don't, they're probably picking themselves up off the ground.
If it's a biker, you wouldn't be able to catch him anyway.
Well, they got to get close enough to hit me with a spark plug.
Yeah, but he can leave the scene a lot faster than you can in a four-wheel vehicle.
I don't know. My truck is with 300 and some horsepower. If it's a Harley Davidson, it probably ain't gonna outrun me.
Not if you got a hole to drive through.
No. But if it's a crotch rocket, they would.
Yeah, like in the movies when they get those 500 crotch rockets with some Asian guys chasing somebody on it. I don't even know what movie I remember that from. But, I do too. It was one of the Kill Bill videos. You remember that? I think it was the last Kill Bill #2, I guess. And Lucy Liu was the nemesis, Asian woman, and all of those guys riding motorcycles in the car chase. No. Oh, come on, tell me y'all have seen Kill Bill.
I did see it.
I've watched part of it, but
If you haven't, it's in reverse order. So you got to watch the second one, #2, after you watch the first one, because they're in reverse order from how the timeline actually happens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
well,
It's a good fucking movie. It's hilarious.
she kills him in the end, so that's got to be the last part of it.
Well, it's pretty mixed up time wise.
Oh. Yeah, she hits him with that, punches him in the heart or something.
Some weird, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
20 steps and then hit the ground or something like that. So many seconds, I don't remember.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of movies when it's so blatantly fantastic about what they do. I just pick, Samantha always said, I don't like going to movies with you because you pick that apart. Like we went and watched Martian and stuff like that. And it's like, nah, you can't do that. You die. It's like, trying to figure out telemetry on something. I'm going to go this, and at this speed and at this angle, and I'm going to meet up with something traveling at thousands of miles a second or whatever. Yeah, okay.
Steve, they make for good comedies.
They jumped out of one craft and caught another one in orbit.
Yeah, I mean,
In free fall, they did it in free fall, right?
I forget on Martian or
I
whatever.
mean, they jumped out of one ship into a landing craft. I think is what they did, and
Yeah,
just in their suits. I mean,
yeah, that was one of it. The other was that I don't know, that girl on a cable tried to catch him or whatever, caught him.
I don't remember that part, but yeah.
Did you guys ever watch this Mystery Theater 2000?
I have.
Yeah, it was on Comedy Central where, the case scenario is a janitor and two robots are out in space on orbit and they don't have anything else better to do but watch TVs, and they have silliest commentaries about these cheesy movies that
Oh
I
yeah,
get
I'll be
bored.
in the front row.
And I'm thinking about what Steve was saying about those movies. I say you can make them a good comedy by the time you're done with that. My mom, I mean, this was one of our pastime activity back in Romania, where they gave us a lot of this communist, uh, you know, everybody has to win and the cost of your life bullshit, stuff like that. And my mom used to make the funniest comments over there. We were laughing our ass off and you know, and all the stuff they were doing over there was like no freaking way that's holding any water, So you
I,
can make a good comedy out of those.
you know, when they try to be stupid or whatever, like Spaceballs and stuff like that,
Oh,
I
that's
think
different.
they try not to be true or whatever,
I love those movies, the parodies.
Yeah, different things like that to where they're so far fetched, that.
No, but this is like a normal movie.
Oh, I know it. Yeah, that's what I mean.
So
That's
say you would watch Rambo and somebody would just start messing around. Yeah, nobody
Yeah,
heard
yeah,
you,
yeah,
buddy. You're
that's
going
what we
through so many.
gallery,
Exactly. And you can make Rambo a very good comedy, by the way.
I just watched that about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago. It seems like it was on. I can't believe I actually stopped on it when I was flipping through, but I watched the whole movie.
well, that's like,
Baseball just on this
if you
weekend.
watch um that cage fighting or real boxing or whatever, and you see how hard them guys can actually hit. And you watch these boxing movies and they take all this abuse, and it's
And
like,
there's
oh my God.
so yeah, sure. Yeah, you watch MMA or something like that. You don't even see it coming, and then the guy just drops, and it's like, what the heck? What the heck happened there? When did he get hit? And he can't see it, right? And just one hit, and then they go right. But try to watch a Rocky movie.
Yeah.
Give me some. Oh my god. Oh well, movies.
Oh, listen here. We got somebody that posted. I've been negligent on my YouTubers. Says his name is anonymous. Okay. Is there any Hangout group I can join? I can give you the link to join a section of the UK live streaming Hangouts community when they go live later on in the day. So,
Later on today, it's 11:20.
yeah, well, it's 6 hours later now. I mean, all right.
It's about five.
So it's the morning. It's morning in the UK right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
It's before
let
morning.
me
We got that one guy from
paste that. I might try to see if I can find your forum, Mr. Anonymous. I'm going to copy that and go back to it after the show and take a look. And then we'll see. Maybe we can hook up if you're a, legit air modeler and having hangouts. So hang on just a second. Excuse me while I'm cutting and pasting.
Hmm.
I'll be back.
Okay. There we go. I'll go back and investigate that later. Anonymous. It'd be nice if you had a name. Oops, camera. But we'll check you out anyway.
I'm looking forward to go to Illinois in 2 weeks and start building my next bird. We're changing the layout slightly. Nothing major. We're gonna put something. We're gonna eliminate some fiberglass. We're gonna eliminate some all the balsa wood in it. So it's no more balsa wood in the plane. The next one, perhaps a little bit lighter. We're trying to get the painting done in a mold. So when the part is coming out of the mold, other than panel lines or some very small fine tuning here and there should be done.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to that to get that done. Should be interesting.
Why is it? Oh, why are you going to Illinois?
Because Mark McKinney has all the materials, all the molds, everything is there.
Oh.
So
Cool. Hope it goes good.
Yeah,
Is
sure,
that
sure.
your triple tree shirt you're wearing?
No, I don't have a triple tree shirt.
Oh, you didn't get one like that with the triple tree patch and stunt championship on the back of it?
No,
Oh,
no, I didn't get. I didn't even know it existed. So yeah, I was happy at the triple tree. I was happy that I got my plane trimmed out, and I kind of find out that it makes a huge difference. Little setup changes because it's. Uh,
yeah, that was a great opportunity to get some advice and test flights and
uh-huh. Yep.
right.
Yep. Derek did a good job. I'm very grateful to what he did, and I don't think I'm gonna touch it again. So that's goes how it's gonna stay. I might play a little bit with the power plant, and
Yeah. Yeah, just keep a log, I know you do. Keep a log of everything you do and
not a major log, but for example, right now I'm gonna take the time to have a very accurate placement for the CG,
mhm.
and I'm gonna take the time to uh, measure accurately where the lead outs are.
I was betting that was gonna be second on your list after you said CG. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just go
because
tiny increments and
yeah,
see what happens.
yeah, because if I move my CG anywhere, I want to follow it with the lead outs with the same and keep the same offset.
How is your adjuster? What type of CG? I mean, lead out adjuster do you have in it?
It's a slider adjuster with a screw in it.
I like those. I don't care for the ones with the individual holes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I never use them. Some people like them. Some people, uh, it works for them. Depends how you do it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, a lot of people use them both ways. I know Wendy used those sliders with the holes in it, and he also. I'm not sure if he used the other one with the sliders, but I think he used the sliders too.
hmm
So yeah.
I've got a lifetime supply of brass grommets that I'm never gonna. I don't know what you call them. That's the best name I can come up with it, but I'm never gonna use all of them. They're about an 1/8 inch, I think.
Yeah. In Revolutions, we have something that looks like a letter T with a big slot in the center, and we put the lead out guide in it, and we screw it in position, stuff like that. So it's that's gonna be our slider, right?
hmm
And when you close the two halves, we put that inside the plane, inside
Yeah.
the wing. So we actually 5-minute epoxy it in a like tack it in two spots, and then we put the splooge around the leading edge where it joins in one spot, and the opposite wing as it comes down has a sum on it too. So it just smooshes over there on the front, on the back, and locks it in place, and that's it. It's just simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm still getting used to it. So that's I need to learn how to fly to its full potential because I cannot fly to its full potential right now.
Have you run into any problems now that you've taken it apart and put it back together a pretty good many times with the fitment?
None whatsoever.
Really?
That's one thing I was kind of good out of the box and stayed like that out of the box. And each take apart assembly that I have over there, the cup, the locking pin, and the barrel, they weigh only 3 grams or so. So I mean, for a whole plane, including the nose that comes apart, you're looking at roughly an ounce worth of weight for taking
I
apart everything.
forgot the nose came off like that until I saw it sitting on the ground next to the plane triple tree.
Oh,
I think I just saw. I didn't get up close, but I saw it from a distance.
uh-huh. Okay, yeah. It's a cam lock, half a turn maximum. Uh,
Yo, you
just
push the nose in and turn it like that. Is
yeah,
that what you, yeah.
yeah. That's all. There it is. To it. and
You put
I'm
it in the box, or you just wrap it and leave it open in the airplane. I mean, in your car.
I just open it and throw it in the car because I couldn't put it in one piece in the car, especially because I have my boy with me. Or
Oh, okay.
but most of the time I don't really need to. Uh, I would like to have a nice box for it and a place to store it like that. Um, I was even looking into some reflective insulation, the stuff that a lot of glider guys are using to make wing bags.
Oh.
But I wasn't very successful on finding something that's good for that. I need to find the exact stuff they are using and the exact uh, technique they are using to make them. Because they don't use. I tried that reflective bubble wrap stuff that comes from Home Depot, and I think that would work great if you put it inside of a box or something like that. Just line the box edge. Uh, that would be great. If I put the plane in a box and I don't have to make pockets out of it, so like fold it over, put it over the wing and stuff like that, have it sit there. Uh, I think that will work very good for that.
Mhm.
But if you want to make a wing bag that's customized to the wing and stuff like that, I try to close it with a uh, something hot, like I was closing my vacuum bags and stuff like that in the past, and it just didn't work. So I kind of I dropped the idea of using that stuff for if I ever use that stuff, I'm probably gonna use scotch tape or something like that. Some kind of scotch tape to tape the thing in place. So because it's just not working like that, I was going to heat seal it per se. So
And
that's
Samantha's, when we went over there to France, I just used packing tape.
mhm.
Uh, I cut it to match the wing, and I wanted to put the packing tape, and I used it like a hinge, and just put it around the wing, stuck it in, even do the other side,
Mhm.
and then we had it velcroed in place, and it worked fine.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
Uh, but it wasn't made to be used outside the box. It was just made to, put it inside the box.
Yeah. Well, I would like to have something that's usable both ways, and outside of the box and inside the box as well. So the idea I had is like to make some bags for the fuselage. So you just slide the fuselage in a bag, and then those bags will have some tabs on them that you can just probably put some Velcro on them. So you set inside the box and you use those tabs to Velcro it on the side of the box, and probably some straps for the fuselage. The wings are not that heavy, but I think some tabs with the Velcro here and there would be more than enough for what I needed. And so the idea was like the fuselage was come like this, the tail, the nose would sit underneath the tail like that, and the two wings would fit right here from the nose of the plane to I mean, where the fuselage, it's breaking off to this spot here. So they would fit perfectly on top of each other, and then the elevator as well. So that's kind of the method to my madness for a box. And a box for Revolutions would be about 30, 38 inches long, no more than 40, uh, 5.5 inches tall, and about 13 inches wide. And it'll be, you know, just fine for holding a plane
I don't
inside.
remember how long Samantha's was and what his was for that.
Yeah.
But
I was,
on the way back, I made this little, because I had the wings turned and set on top of each other. and they were all in the bottom of the box. And I glued in a box inside of it with Velcro on it to hold basically Allen wrenches and stuff like that. And then the top of the box took the fuselage.
Mm-hmm.
And but they were so rough on that thing that they bent the hell out of the box and it wrecked the cowl on it. So on the way home, I pulled the motor out and all that stuff and put that inside the box. And
Yeah.
they still broke. After we fixed the cowl, they broke it again on the way back. But they threw that, I don't know how far they threw that box or whatever, but it hinges and it doesn't even close. You gotta push on it to get it to lock. They bent that aluminum box that bad.
Mm. And it was an aluminum box on top of it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, 1/8-inch aluminum. The stuff that Duron, whatever they make landing gear out of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had it heated and bent, and then I took it to the shop and I had all the corners welded and stuff like that. Yeah, and it has a full length stainless steel piano head across the back of the box,
Mm-hmm.
and they bent that box and hinge and stuff on back home. I mean, the only thing I can think of is they were doing a Samsonite commercial, and that gorilla got a hold of that damn thing.
Mm-hmm. Did you have written fragile on it?
Oh yeah, and I think that was a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a telltale sign for them to start playing soccer with it.
Yeah. Yeah, because on the way there we had something that said it was an airplane or whatever, and on the way back, Air France, when they opened it up and looked at it and everything else, they shut it and put a great big ass sticker on it that said fragile. So I guess that was the code. How much you could actually do to the damn thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's something Mark McKinney said about it, and he said if I put the nose of the fuselage and stuff like that in a box or something like that, I should take the motors out because they're so heavy and they act like a hammer when you.
Oh yeah, it destroyed that front. But even thought that would take care of it. But I had 2-inch foam, and it's the foam we use for killers and stuff. It's a real dense, closed foam,
Mm-hmm.
but it's super soft. And I didn't figure that you could drop that far enough to compress that, and they did, and it just it broke the
Mm-hmm.
cowl on it, knocked it to like 5 pieces.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. When you put the plane together in a box, is the box the size of a gun case, for example, or is one of those big rectangular, huge boxes?
I custom made this. We sat down and figured out the length was 1 inch, 2 inches longer than the fuse. I can't remember what the fuse was with the rudder and all that off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then because you only get so many square inches,
Mm-hmm.
I could go measure it and
Mhm.
see. But yeah, it was custom made for that airplane.
Yeah. Well, the method to my madness, what I'm trying to say is that I took a trip to Pittsburgh for work, and I took my glider with me, and the glider was in a gun case. And a lot of time when you go to a competition like that, if you don't have one of those boxes where you keep the plane basically in a one-piece plane, and you just remove the tail off of it and the landing gear and have one of those big boxes. But if you have like a normal gun case or something relatively small, take it on your carry-on. And a lot of times, if you explain them to the stewardesses, they have a coat compartment, and they will be more than happy to stash it in their coat compartment over there. So you're all safe and good to go. Or if you're one of the first ones that board the plane, Even if you're the last one, it really doesn't matter. Go to the back of the plane and find one of those, you know, overhead baggage bins, right? And if you can put like put this style on both of them, you know, kind of nice and flat, other people can put the stuff on top of it, right? Like a thinner purse or whatever, you know, backpack or something like that. It's not going to crush it or hurt it as much as. Uh, the thing is, like airports nowadays, they're very automized. They have this. Uh, they're built more for a regular suitcase, not something long and skinny, right? Like you have. So when that ram comes from the side, bam, tries to push it in a new direction or something like that. If it's long and skinny, you know, might go like that and want to bend around or something like that. So it's kind of, you know, it's not exactly user friendly. I mean, and gentle on those carrying cases.
On the way there, no, it was on the way back. No, it was on the way there. We watched them take the case that was on top of it was being pulled by one of them trolley cars or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They stop and unwrap it. Samantha's airplane's on the top and slides off, you know, whack on the pavement.
Mm-hmm.
So it dropped about 4 feet onto the pavement. I don't know if that's when it first broke it then or not, but on the way home is when it really took its toll on it.
Did you complain with the airline?
Now it goes from one airline to another, and it's like, who do you complain to? You know, we had well, we only had 2 stops, but no, we had 3. 2 on the way there, 3 on the way back.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows who whacked it up?
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay, well, so
just
if,
like on the way home, there were so many people. Unless you had frequent flyer miles and all this kind of stuff, you couldn't even bring on carry-on stuff. They made us. The airplane was full. They made us leave all of our stuff in the hallways, re-tag, give us a stub, and we had to get it when we got off the airplane.
mm-hmm.
You know, only thing we could have was just, you know, like a little purse type deal. You know, that our laptop in and stuff like that. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I figured they fill these things with so much mail and shit that there's no room for luggage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, because I was watching them load airplanes. They load on a lot more stuff that isn't luggage than is luggage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, you know, I think FedEx, you know, U.S. Mail, whatever, they must pay pretty well to take their stuff on these flights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I bet because I went with British Airways because you could take one big bag for free, and the second one was $50. And the other ones, they wanted to charge you like $50 for the first one, and $150 for the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I paid for British Airways, and we flew United. Well, then United wanted to charge me all that damn money, and I'm like, hey, there ain't no damn way. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up still having to pay extra, but not the $100. I think they charged me $50 for each or something like that. But it's like, that's a bunch of crap because I booked this, this flight through British Airways, and it says how big a package I can take and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't count if it's sporting goods. British Airways is really good on that. Well, then we flew United, and they wanted to charge me for all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But on the way back home, we actually flew British Airways. There wasn't a problem. It didn't charge me nothing on the way back.
Yeah,
But
let's see. From what I know, on international flights, you are allowed to have a normal size suitcase. I mean, I'm not talking about the carry-on, plus a carry-on and your purse, or AK, well, you can be your laptop, something like that. That's like laptop and a carry-on, or your purse and on a carry-on, stuff like that. So you have the big baggage, purse, and a carry-on, or big baggage, uh, a laptop, and a carry-on, or something like that. So from what I understand, that's what you're allowed.
that's what they say. And the way there, we had no problems with carry-on or anything on any of the airplanes we got on the way back. It's when there was no carry-on room, and I don't know why on the 67 it wasn't a problem, but when we took the other two airplanes, one out of New Jersey and the one from Chicago, they start calling your ticket numbers or whatever, however it worked, to put people on. By the time we got up there was no more carry-on space, and they made us check all the carry-on stuff.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, I got batteries. They cannot go in cargo. These are light batteries. So we end up having to open up damn carry-on bags and move this and that. And then with Samantha trying to figure out how we could get, phones and laptop and batteries and all that, so we had to actually hang on to them for, we could stick them under our seat for a couple hours. We had to redo everything because they wanted to put the LiPo batteries. Like, they don't even think about that. They check them through, they can't go on, they can't be in checked baggage and all that. Then you get there and they're like, oh, we have no more check for carry, so we're going to check all this baggage. They really check it.
Yeah. The good part is that if you get to the door of the airplane, saying I want to do that with your plane, right?
Yeah.
They usually personally handle it, right? They're not carrying it with a truck or something like that. And at your destination, they also pick it up and bring it out to the front of the plane as well.
Right.
So they don't go through the conveyors and stuff like that. So probably that's it. Would be a nice idea for,
Yeah, we only had one thing broken because that Samantha had some bamboo stuff and all of her presents that people gave her from all the other teams. And it was only one thing got broke. But that's what she was so afraid of, is that she had it all to where, they gave her some China sake cups and platters or whatever, real fragile things. And we sat there and wrapped them in clothes and did all that shit. They were waiting for us, they were giving us crap. We had to hurry. And I'm like, hurry my ass. We're supposed to carry this out. And you're saying no, and you ain't gonna rush me. We're gonna make sure nothing happens to it. So they weren't real happy with me. So we got a little bit of an argument right there on the walkway. But
yeah,
it was. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff about the flying that I didn't before, but
yeah.
Did the U.S. did the U.S. team contribute any gifts to the other national contenders? From all over the world. Did y'all? I mean, people like you say, like France, Germany, China, whatever, gave Samantha stuff. Did the U.S. team repeat the favor and give away gifts to the other athletes?
I did. I went and bought $100 worth of T-shirts and stuff to pass out to the other kids.
Oh, cool.
But the team itself, or the U.S. team, some other people had some other things they were giving away, personal stuff. But I'm not sure if the Chinese team, if that was from the Chinese team, or if they brought the stuff. From the Japanese team, that was things that the team members, the little China sake glasses and little pour and all that kind of stuff. That was something that he brought and bought himself and brought there and gave to Samantha. They decided, was it the Czech team? I can't. They gave some, but I believe that it was bought by the person and not by the team itself.
Yeah.
We had pins that the team gave out, and we traded pins, that kind of stuff. But like Kaz, and he was on our team. He gave Samantha a fan, a really cool Japanese fan with a kabuki characters on it.
I like those fans. Those are cool.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. So Kaz, paid for that himself and then brought that over.
Well, good. I'm glad to know that everybody does that.
Yeah, Samantha, everybody's like, oh, the banquet and all that kind of stuff. It's just, but Samantha said that was the most fun time. All the kids took off for a couple of hours, ran around, and I don't know what all they did. Stuff like that, and gave each other presents, and they had a blast. But she says that was the best time.
Good.
They got away from all the adults, and
That sounds like a really fun trip.
no more competition, and they just talk about being kids, I guess.
At Triple Tree, Alexander's favorite time is playing Star Wars with paper planes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he went with Sam back in a woods behind the flying field, and he just playing Star Wars. With build up paper planes and code like a Millennium Falcon.
I saw some cool design paper planes too. There was a pile of them around after they got through it.
Yeah, here, that was the funny part of my trip there with him. It was very much fun. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad he's got somebody to hang out with. I mean, 99.9% of the time, Samantha never had anyone but adults to hang out with. And then there were like 50-year-old and plus adults.
Oh, no shit. Yeah, on top of it.
And it was like, here she's 12, 13 years old hanging out with,
old farts.
Years old. So,
a couple of years, Liam Barry will be older and he'll be able to hang with the bigger kids a little bit better. And there's a few.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm still waiting for that plastic covering to come from. I don't know what the hell is coming on. It's coming from China because originally they say it's gonna be here on the 3rd, the latest, and now they pushed the date back till I don't know, another 2 weeks or so after that. I was like, this is crap, So I ended up ordering something new for him, but the plane is finished, basically.
Yeah, like I said, I got that brand new roll of white. I don't know what other color you need. Dick has just about every color. I got a bunch of them. I know you're going there to Chicago. We'll get that covering to you. That's not a big deal.
Yeah, but keep it in mind because I'm not sure by the time we might have our stuff in.
Okay.
And done already. Yeah, I built a stiffer wing for the twister that he needed. I put shear webs in a wing. I think except for the last 2-3 bays in between the ribs, they didn't have a shear web over there, and I did add a strip of that thin unidirectional carbon fiber on the top and the bottom of the wing to reinforce it. So it's going to be nice and stiff over there. I don't think it's going to give us any surprise in the future.
Yeah, I've never built it. I don't give a shit what airplane it was. I always put shear webs in them. They don't come. I put them. For 1/16 for the strength you get.
Yes.
I mean, it's just crazy not to do it.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
You know, it's a little pain in the ass sanding them and fitting them and shit like that, but that's still not even that bad.
But not even that, Steve. I mean, if you don't really care too much about it, you can be an eighth of an inch shorter overall and still be fine.
Oh yeah.
Kind of center it over there, top and bottom, glue one side, flip it over, and just glue the other side, and done. Or if you put it, if you have like a D tube kind of wing, you can put them on the tube side, on the sheeting side,
Yeah.
so you don't even see where they start or end. Who cares?
Well, yeah. The last one I did with like the D tube, I glued them on the outside. I'm like, I didn't even sand them to fit in between.
Mhm.
I stuck them on the glued them to the spars.
Mhm.
I figured, well, I know that glue is strong enough to hold that. It's stronger than what the balsa would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you make a D tube and you don't put those shear webs over there, I think you're killing a lot of torsional strength,
Yeah.
and that you can gain from there. And yeah, I think what I'm using this unidirectional carbon fiber is very very cheap insurance for a lot of extra strength.
Well, that's, I was saying back in the day when I flew pattern, and this was in the 80s, we would take that and you could buy it like a sheet of it real thin, and we cut it 1/4 inch wide. And then instead of going quarter by quarter, we sanded the backside of it, or sanded down the spar until when we added that top and bottom, that it came out to 1/4 inch, and then just put that. Then we didn't even use shear webs. We just
Mhm.
carbon fiber top and bottom for the spars. And that was hard to believe. You couldn't stretch one or compress the other. So you couldn't get that to it. But that was we did back in the 80s, and that worked well.
Yeah, but the shear web helps in torsion as well.
From the twist.
From torsion, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you don't put the shear, you can still keep the carbon fiber in there, right? But you can still torsion a wing. You can just flip flap like that until you add the covering. But if you think about in the air, the same thing happens a little bit, right? Did you ever see those pictures of the guys in doing the pattern and pulling a corner or whatever, and the wing tips are just being twisted up, or
Yeah.
the
Why
the
that new
wing?
airplane of Samantha's, I ran carbon fiber from the spar back to the trailing edge tip.
Hmm.
Is buried in there, so you can't twist that wing.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah, yes, you showed
I mean,
us.
just with foam and no balsa wood on it, it was just hard to believe what that did to that wing
Hmm.
to
Yeah,
set it up.
it's and I think you use a rod over there, which I think is overkill, anyways. But
Yeah.
uh,
Like you said, you figured it up and it was good for so many hundreds of pounds or whatever, but
it's
it was
crazy. Yeah,
times more than what I needed, but that's all I could get. So,
it's
and
it's yeah. The carbon fiber shears tensile strength. It's what we're interested into. The carbon fiber tensile strength of normal use, it's 550,000 pounds per square inch. At the ultimate tensile strength, it's over 1 million pounds per square inch. So you do the math on that little thing. It's like whatever you put in there is just way overkill.
but it was cheap and light. I could have went,
Huh?
if I had smaller stuff, it'd have been lighter yet. But
Yeah.
all of it together, I only added, I don't know, the wings were 6 or 7 grams. I don't. It was nothing for that kind of strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
Less than a half an ounce. Way
Yeah.
under a half an ounce.
Yeah. Well, think about this. think about this. Maybe next time you want to consider it. It's if you use the 100 gram per square meter, it's about. Uh, Let me see here. Okay. If you use the material I told you about,
Yeah.
a 1 meter strip, 4 inch wide, weight, it's 0.25 grams.
Yeah, I know.
Holy crap. You
I mean,
say the dimensions again? What was it?
what?
What were the dimensions again?
It's 1 meter by 1 meter, so it's
So a quarter of a gram?
that's 100 grams per square meter, right? But if
Yeah.
we cut a 4 inch strip, which is about 5 millimeters,
Yeah.
it weighs about 0.25 grams. So imagine a balsa spar that's quarter of an inch by 2 inches tall. That's the equivalent of which you had over there. So basically, you don't even need a spar. You can just attach this to the sheeting, and you're done. That's your spar. I mean, you don't need the sticks for the spar per se, right? You can, and the way I would do this, I'd probably just instead of use 4 inch by 4 inch balsa sticks that we use right now, you probably use a 4 inch by 1/16 or something like that. And then I would put this carbon fiber on top of it with a 3M77. What you do is that you get a piece of that, corrugated cardboard, anything that's scrap, right? A big sheet of something, right? So you take this carbon fiber, you just put it on its face, and you take the 3M77 and stay away from it from like at least a foot or so,
Mhm.
and you go like very very quick, go like, and you just really move fast. So you almost put nothing on it, right? It's enough to hold itself, and now it becomes like a tape. So you put it right on top of it, and you just level it with your fingers, and it's gonna stay there in position from now on, right? And now when you apply your sheeting, so when you put your sheeting on, and you put the thin CA over there, the thin CA is gonna wick through the carbon fiber, is gonna glue it to the top sheeting and that stick that's underneath it. And this sandwich, so strong and light. I mean, you probably can cut uh, the equivalent of losing one of those 4 inch by 4 inch sticks that you have over there. No, one and a half actually. So you lose all of that stuff
Uh,
because if you use only a 1/16 by 4 inch wide instead of 4 inch by 4 inch spar, I mean, it's just obviously you lose 75% of that weight.
yeah, that's basically what we did back in the 80s, except we stayed with a 1/4 inch spar because that was like standard and they notched into the wings and stuff, and we just added that to it. But yeah, we probably could have, if we made our own ribs or cut our own foreign cores, had made this, had the right size, U16, but we just, 'cause it weighed nothing. We just added it to that 1/4 inch spar, and yeah, it was,
I'm surprised that like this stuff is so cheap. I'm surprised how come most of us are not picking it up and start using it. I mean, it's just like cheap insurance, and it's just the stiffness that you achieve from that. It's so much better. And any dihedral that you get in a wing, if the wing does this in a loop, what does it do actually? Because one wing goes alongside the lines, right? And the dihedral is just gonna pull the outboard wing in, so you lose line tension, right? So if you do a loop, it's like this. If you do a square, it's even more. so it's very loose in a corner, you know. So I think the stiffness in a like dihedral kind of stiffness on the wing is very important.
Now you can only get that from England, though, didn't you say?
What?
You can only get it in England.
That's the place where I found it. I mean, you can get it from many other places, right? But this one, hey, was better than the other ones, simply because of the binder they had. It was not sewn on. A lot of them are using some kind of a string and they sew it on, right? And that's how they keep the strands together. The one from England has some kind of a binder and some superficial carbon fiber strands that like you drizzle on top of it or something very light, right? They go in at random directions, which holds the fibers together. So you don't have this fiber with a sewn off stuff that wants to jump over and just kind of go and then jump over and then go again. It's like it's very weak. The stuff is not good. But if you use this stuff, it's like $15 per square meter. And you get one of those and you make yourself 400 spars with it.
Yeah, yeah. I want to get some, but I'm not planning on doing much more building here. So
Mhm.
we'll see what
Yeah,
I
well, if you come to Chicago when you're gonna build that plane, you're gonna see what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm gonna go to bed.
Me too.
Yeah, midnight.
Yeah, I kind of do too.
right.
Actually, so let's
So
call it tonight. It was kind of a sublime Monday show, but thanks everybody for coming, and you YouTubers out there kind of were on your own tonight, but y'all had some good conversations too, especially the part about throwing spark plugs at people. But anyway, everybody have a great week, and thanks. We'll see y'all, and thanks for the super chat donations. Always love that. And so everybody do something fun. Come back Friday and tell us about it. And so we are signing off in 3, 2, 1. Good night.
Good night.